Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast, the football and pro wrestling podcast we bring you each and every week. If you could head over to YouTube and subscribe and hit that bell notification button, and of course drop a like on the video, so important. We are back with another preview, another Shankly Sessions. Brighton coming up tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock at Anfield. Always a very tough game for us, Brighton. But before we get into that, I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who joined us last night on the watch along. It was a lot of fun. Tough night at the office as predicted for Shelbourne, and also a tough night, not a great night either for Shamrock Rovers either. Both teams getting beaten and heavily rooted, very much near the bottom of the league table now, if not at the bottom. Doesn't look like they're going to have much of a chance of getting into the qualifiers, but certainly what they will do is try and do something in the final games and stuff like that, and try and rack up a few quid, as they say. Money, so important to these Irish teams. Really important. Makes a massive difference to what they can do and how they can progress and level up year on year and stuff like that. But let's talk about the Liverpool game, and obviously coming off a real good result against Inter Milan. A lot of people going in on the performance a little bit and stuff like that, but there was a lot of jeopardy involved in that match. We were coming off a really bad result against Leeds in terms of, right, we got a draw, we weren't beaten, but we really tossed it away twice. And then obviously the Mo Salah nuclear interview and stuff like that obviously ratcheted things up a whole lot more, and you know, it generated this division in the fan base between, like, are you Mo Salah FC, are you Liverpool FC? Is this really Mo Salah versus Arne Slot? What role did Richard Hughes and Michael Edwards play in this? You know, was Salah orchestrating a move? Was the club orchestrating a move? Apparently a meeting happened last night, and apparently that meeting didn't necessarily go too well. A lot of talk at the moment, especially in this preview, will be whether Mo Salah should start, whether Mo Salah should be a part of the lineup, whether Mo Salah should even be in the stadium. A lot of people are talking about, and it's a real tough one because he's such a legend of the club and stuff like that. As I said on many podcasts, I absolutely love Mo Salah, but I don't love any player more than I love my club. I have to put that out there. The club is everything to me. I follow Liverpool now since 1978, and Liverpool has meant so much to me in my life, but the club has meant so much to me. Players come and go. We've seen unbelievable players, you know, and we hold them fondly in our hearts and stuff like that. King Kenny, all the boys back in the day and stuff like that, and all the way up through to Stevie and Cara and everyone, Robbie, and you know, big shout out to Robbie Fowler at the moment as well. Best of luck with the treatment, pal, and stuff like that and all. Hope it all goes well for you and stuff like that. News coming out today, so big up to Robbie Fowler. But yeah, it's always a tough one trying to find this balance. But the real question is, and let us know in the comments, would you put Mo Salah in the lineup? Would you have him on the bench on Saturday? Are you going to give him this farewell? And is the farewell really a farewell because he's heading off to the AFCON and best of luck? Or is the farewell really a farewell as in best of luck, Mo, and thank you very much for everything that you did? So it's pulling on the heartstrings at the moment, and it's an interesting conundrum and a real difficult spot that the manager finds himself in as well, because obviously, depending on how the meeting went last night, and we don't really know, we're hearing that it didn't go great. But so what does that do? Does that drive the decision? And how would you feel about it as a Liverpool fan? You know, if Mo Salah wasn't in the squad on Saturday, if Mo Salah wasn't in the building, they have to find a way, and I've mentioned this, to send a legend like Mo Salah off the right way. We don't want the back and forth. We don't want it to get toxic. And like this would get toxic at a level totally different to Trent. And keep an eye out on the channel today because we're going to be dropping a short on Trent Alexander-Arnold, which should be interesting. But let us know your thoughts in the comments as well on Mo Salah. Do you put him in? Do you not put him in? Do you give him 20 minutes at the end? Do you bring him on as a sub? If you don't start him and you bring him on as a sub, is it nearly as insulting? These are the issues that he has had. Do you bring him on when the game is still in the balance? Let's suppose you're 0-0 with 20 minutes to go, or you're 1-1. Do you bring him on? Is he the guy who will come on and get you that winner and that's the send-off? Or is he the guy who will come on and what we've seen in a lot of games this season just really doesn't affect the game? So let us know your thoughts. What way do you feel about this? How important is it? Is Mo Salah's send-off more important to you than potentially getting 3 points off Brighton at the weekend and maybe pushing us up more into a more meaningful top 4 race? Which is more important to you? Is it more important to you that Mo Salah gets the right send-off, or is it more important to you that we make sure we have a good chance of getting Champions League football next season? That's how we have to look at it. This is what's in the balance. This is what the debates today are going to be in training and in the planning for the Brighton game and stuff like that. And if you bring Mo Salah back in and we haven't seen anything in terms of an apology, or even if it's an apology behind closed doors, the coming together of minds to smooth out this situation, even if we're told, look, things have been resolved and he's back in and all that, that's ideally what we need to hear, isn't it? Because if you don't hear a lot of those things and he just goes back in, are we creating a stick to beat ourselves with in the future in terms of player power? And most Man United fans will tell you, like, this is how this has gone at their club, where players start controlling the narrative, you have a real problem. And that we've often said the office of the manager has to be protected at all costs. So it's really, really important from that point of view. Let's get on to the Brighton game anyway, because we've spent enough mileage this week talking about Mo Salah, and rightly so, being the legend of the club. But Brighton always pose a real threat for us. What have we felt about Brighton this season, folks? It's an interesting one, because in recent times they've been losing players and seamlessly being able to replace them and bring players in. But this season has felt a little bit different for Brighton, hasn't it? Insofar as they've been kind of a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde, where you expect them to rock up and perform, they kind of fall on their sword, and where you expect them to kind of draw and stuff like that, they've been grinding out wins. So they've been a little bit hit and miss at the moment and indifferent. Hursler's done an unbelievable job at Brighton for such a young coach as well. He just gets the Premier League and stuff like that. That coupled with the fact, I mean, they've had a number of players out this season and stuff like that. The likes of Lewis Dunk has been in and out of the team, and he's an absolute stalwart for them at the back. Solly March hasn't really been able to maintain his fitness, so they've had to lean on Danny Welbeck quite a bit this season. And what a season Danny Welbeck has had so far. I mean, what a resurgence in terms of his career. He's been outstanding this season. Carlos Balibas had a bit of a drop off this season, not quite hitting the straps he hit last season. My thinking on that is probably a lot of it has been a lot of the narrative and the conversation around him and stuff like that and all. He's been linked with huge moves away. We've seen the talk in the summer about being linked to United and 120 million and all this kind of stuff. And for a young lad, that can really mess with your head. You know, we've seen the situation with Evan Ferguson, who absolutely lit up Brighton there, was it 2 seasons ago or whatever it was, maybe 3, I don't know. And then, like, all of a sudden was getting linked to United and big moves away, and all of a sudden you get that in your head, and then you're struggling to deal with the media scrutiny on you once you're linked to a big club with a big move. And we know Evan has had his own challenges off the pitch as well, and you know, went over to Roma there on that loan, and it hasn't worked out, and Roma look like they're going to send him back, I think, in January, so he'll be back in Brighton in January. Do Brighton loan him back out again? Does he go up to a Celtic or something like that? Maybe, I don't know. That was the talk. Maybe Celtic might be a good suitor for him. Rome, he said it on the show the other night and stuff like that. So I'm not too sure what the solution is for Evan. He's had a couple of moves away now, a couple of loan moves, and they just at times just haven't worked out for him. But you know, you look at Brighton, I mean, they lost McAllister to us, you know, they lost Caicedo, they lost Yves Bissouma, and these were all really, really good big players for them at the time and all. If you remember Yves Bissouma at the time when he got the move to Spurs, he was arguably one of the best box-to-box midfielders in the league. Obviously he's had his challenges at Spurs, both on and off the pitch. Hasn't been the ideal professional at times, but certainly a very, very good player, who's kind of feels, I kind of feel at Spurs, kind of the weight of the transfer has kind of got to him a bit. And obviously being in London as well, there's so many distractions. We talk about that, if you remember, with the loan move for Grealish. You know, we spoke about if he went to London, how would he handle that, the nightlife and the attraction to it. And I think with Yves Bissouma, I think a lot of that has happened as well, and I think he's just distracted. And I don't know, maybe for Yves Bissouma to find his form again, maybe he needs a move away from Spurs. I know Thomas Frank wouldn't have a huge appetite for that sort of carry on and stuff, so we'll see what happens there. But getting back to Brighton again, and Tony Bloom has just done, he's just coining it in at Brighton, but coining it in a way where he's been able to maintain a level as well, hasn't he? Even with like, Potter exiting the building and different managers coming in and Hurtsler coming in, and like what a risk Hurtsler coming in was, because such a young manager coming in to take over, to me arguably is one of those mid-table clubs, but always competitive in any game they go into. They play a real good brand of football. They don't play a low block. They play football the right way. They've got some really dangerous players. The boy Matoma, who was linked with a move away, and again they've had that issue during the summer as well, where they've tried to prepare for the big Premier League campaign, and what happens is your players start getting distracted by the talk of big money moves. I'm sure Carlos Baleba, a lot of his form that's dropped off this season and his inconsistency in his play, a lot of it is because he was linked with a big money move away, and you just get distracted, especially at that age, massive money and all that kind of stuff. And also, just various other players. Well, Matoma was linked with a big move away. He was also linked with us, remember, as well. At a time where Luis Diaz was leaving, Matoma was one of those players, certainly, that was on the radar for us. Fabulous player as well. But I think for Hurtsler in defence of him as well, at times he hasn't been able to just get that exact 11 that he wants on the pitch. But some incredible players there, really good footballers and stuff like that and all. And like I said, always competitive both at the top and the bottom end of the table, no matter who they're playing. So this will be a tough game, and we've experienced it for Sam, myself and Dean over there with the draw and stuff like that we probably should have lost. But this will be definitely a tough game. This will be one that we need to lay down a statement and see, can we turn things around, Keith was talking last night on the show. He was in the comments. He was talking about going with the same approach to Inter Milan. I don't know whether the approach we took for Inter Milan, which was quite a pragmatic approach, really. You know what I mean? It was all about keeping hold of the ball. It was all about, using the ball in a real economic way, and there wasn't a huge amount going forward in terms of creating clear, real good chances and stuff like that. The Kanate goal on another day probably should have stood. The penalty was a soft pen, but the risk you take, especially in Europe, if you grab a player by the jersey, and whatever about a fleeting tug, if you grab a player by the jersey and you hold on at that length of time, the player goes down, you're giving the ref a decision to make. Dominic Szoboszlai absolutely creamed the penalty. No bother to him, stood up, took the responsibility and buried it. And we ran out 1-0 winners in a quite confident kind of way, not dissimilar to the West Ham performance. And you could see by Inter Milan as well, like with 20 minutes to go, they were dead on their feet as well. They had blown up really and stuff like that, and we were finding it easier and easier to progress the ball. But even with that being said, we didn't create a lot really. So I'd be concerned about that against Brighton, because playing with your wing play against Brighton, those kind of balls into the box and stuff that we've been playing recently and stuff like that, and that repetitive pattern of play, that's just food and drink to a Lewis Dunk. Absolute food and drink, and that will not, I wouldn't think, bear a whole lot of fruit. Again, I think it will be difficult as well off corners as well, because they're very good structurally in terms of their defending off corners. So I think this one calls for maybe a different kind of way of playing, maybe playing through the lines, and the way Verts and Ekitike link up and stuff like that, trying to open them up a little bit, might work better. So they'll be key in this game, I think. I think there's going to have to be I think the game is going to have to be a lot more about the movement off the ball and how we try and stretch the play and open up Brighton, more so than kind of set pieces and stuff like that, because as I said, defensively they're so good in the box. They got big guys in there and stuff like that and all. In the midfield, I think we have a real opportunity, because they do open up with a formation where they sit with two kind of in that midfield, and then people kind of invert and drop back to make up the numbers. But the midfield could be where we have a little bit of an advantage in the way that we play with the three boys in midfield, and it lends itself to an opportunity to bring other players into the game and stuff like that, because at some respects in the transition of play we will have an extra man in there, and that will be key. But the one thing we need to see tomorrow is that kind of energy that they brought against Inter Milan. And I know it's easy when you're not easy, but you know, it's when you're away from home and there's less pressure on you, and like the feeling out there is you probably don't have much of a chance in the game. The Mo Salah stuff going on, the heat on the manager, some of the results, the PSV result as well. So there was a lot going into that Inter Milan game, and we came through it, and came through it really, really well. And I don't think we got enough credit, to be honest, in coming away from there 1-0 winners, when you see the background of everything and stuff like that, and you take everything into account. But we need to build on that now, and as people said after the game, it's all about what happens now with Brighton, and how can we kick on. And I think if McAllister and Gravenberch, Dom is without question our player of the season. He's been Mr. Consistent in what's been a really bad situation. But I think if we can get that energy from McAllister again, and from Gravenberch, who were really, really good. Joe Gomez, I thought, had a really good game, up and down the wing and stuff like that. I've never seen in my life Joe Gomez as progressive in a game, in terms of being in the opposition's half and stuff like that and all. And I like that, and I like to see Joey getting a run in the team as well, because I'm a big fan of Joe Gomez, even though his career's been blighted with injuries and stuff like that and all. I am a big fan of Joe Gomez, and I would love to see a Joe Gomez Liverpool goal. I would just lose my shit if that happens, you know. But yeah, this is going to be tough, and this is going to be quite marginal, this game. This ain't going to be a procession. Feels like a draw, but I'm going to go for a marginal Liverpool 2-1, and I'm going to hope that the Brighton that shows up is the one that's been a little bit inconsistent and coughing up opportunities. But the story leading into this, everyone's eyes will be on that sheet at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon to see what the lineup and the squad is. We might get some information today based on the meeting that happened yesterday. Who knows? It'll be interesting to listen to Slot's presser and to see, does he give away much? He normally doesn't. He keeps his cards close to his chest. Let us know your predictions in the comments. But a win tomorrow and 3 points would be massive in terms of getting us back into a number of conversations. But it also means as well we'll have gone, is it 5 games or 6 games now unbeaten? And although we haven't got the results that we wanted, and we've dropped a few draws, it feels a little bit more consistent than that run of games where we were just absolutely dross. But hopefully the Reds show up tomorrow, 3 o'clock, big game at Anfield. They'll be under the lights no doubt for the second half at least, because the dark night evenings are coming in now and stuff like that. A lot of games coming up, and for us this season now, every game is going to be a cup final no matter who you're playing. So up the Reds, let's go. Let's keep on trying to fix up, and let's see how this whole Mo Salah situation develops. Let us know your thoughts. Salah in, Salah out, and give us your prediction as well. What you think is going to happen tomorrow. I'm going for a tight 2-1 to the Reds. Cheers folks. If you could subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button, and don't forget, if you're a Liverpool fan, the playlist is in there. You'll find all the Liverpool content within the Shankly Sessions playlist, so make sure you check that out as well, and we'll talk to you again real soon.